Hi, everybody. I'm Richard Sher, and it's time to square off Baltimore's longest running public affairs program, now in our 41st year. Let's meet this week's panel. From WBAL Radio, Bryan Nehman, who's on with C4 in the mornings, Monday through Fridays, 5:30 to 10. Former Baltimore Mayor Sheila Dixon, who always has a lot of good things to say. Peabody Award-winning journalist Marc Steiner. Marc, good to see you again. And GOP Committeewoman, the amazing Nicloee Ambrose. All right. President Trump calls this past Wednesday Liberation Day, with the announcement of more tariffs. The administration's global tariffs against imported goods has drawn strong reactions across the board. Long-standing U.S. allies across most of the world's largest economies, reacting with a mixture of anger and despair as they vowed retaliatory tariffs and hinted at some of the measures they plan to use to soften the blow to their own economies. Big topic on your morning show, Bryan Nehman. Take it away while I drink some water.
Well, this would be a BFD, as Joe Biden has said in the past. Look, Donald Trump, for me, my analogy is he's like an all-you-can-eat buffet. It's like going to the Golden Corral. And there's some wonderful things there that you want to eat. It's still delicious. You want to go back for seconds and thirds. Some other parts, you might try it a little bit. You don't like it. And other parts that make you want to throw up. This is a part that makes me want to reach for the trash can. I don't get it. I think it's the dumbest, the most risky political and economic maneuver I've seen in my lifetime. I think the upside is the best case scenario is some other countries lower their tariffs on us, and the worst case scenario is it's a trade war, and it throws us into a recession or maybe something worse. So I'm not a big fan of it, Richard.
Okay, Marc Steiner.
Tariffs have never worked. They've always led to tariff wars. It's one of the most absurd moves I've ever heard of. I can't believe he's actually doing it. Biden did a little too much in my book, and I think that what's happening in this. Excuse me, I'm sorry. My dog is having an attack.
It's all right. Let's bring him on.
All right, wait a second.
Marc, what's with your dog? Sheila, jump in.
No, wait. I'm sorry.
We got nothing else to do, Marc.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
The way I would describe it is there is no order with this disorder. Consumers are going to feel it. I understand that he wants to create this havoc across the world in order to show his power, but it's going to affect all of us. And as I said earlier, prices are going to go sky high. We're going to go in a recession. Things are going to get worse. What happened to sitting down and negotiating and talking? I think Bryan used a good analogy of Golden Corral, which is one place that no offense, I just won't even go to a buffet. But it is horrible, and we're going to be all impacted in ways that it's going to be detrimental to the average citizen, and that is not what we need in this day and time.
Marc, why are you smiling?
So here's my question for everyone. What happened when the first Trump administration placed tariffs on China? I remember people saying, our lives will be unaffordable, nothing is going to work, and then Biden continued those same tariffs. And we have to look at the situation we are living in. All of our aspirin is made in China. So many of our everyday pharmaceuticals are made in China. Before the first Trump administration, we had no way to produce a semiconductor chip in America. Our entire supply chain, whether it's for our military to build a new ship to our pharmaceuticals, is made overseas. So on the one hand, we obviously learned from COVID that this is not sustainable, that this is not healthy for America. And so I appreciate someone trying to take a totally new approach to the situation because America has been in a terrible position. So if this helps bring, the 2 trillion in investment that we already have pledged here for new factories, new businesses, I would much rather, by the way, have a car made here in America paying our American worker those high wages, those great benefits than overseas as well. I think there are a lot of benefits that no one is talking about here.
All right, Mark, you go because of the dog, and then we'll get back to Bryan because I know he's got something he wants to say. Go ahead. Mark.
I mean, they're real dangerous in this. I mean, most economists are saying these tariffs will reduce household income by almost $4,000 per family in this country, which is a huge amount for most people in America. Like 45% of our cars right now are made overseas. The majority of cars are made here. I mean, we live in an international global economy. This is a kind of, this is not even conservative thinking. This is really kind of very far right nationalistic thinking that never works, and it's just absurd. I mean, I think we're entering a dangerous zone for the future.
Jump
Well, I
in.
have to say, I mean, on the China front, I don't necessarily disagree, but the problem is these tariffs are on everybody. They're not just on China. So if you want to get off of the China fix that we're on, then you actually want to have trade with Vietnam. You actually want to have trade with Brazil, and you want to have trade with the European Union to get China off of the power that they have. And then the other part about it is that even if you make it in America, most of our imports or half of our imports are basically raw materials. So they're aluminum, steel, plastics, that even if you're an American company and you're building it in America, you have to have those products. So that's going to jack up the prices on American products as well. And the long-term benefit of this is not for really years down the road, if there is one. And politically speaking, you're going to be up, what's creek in a couple of months if prices really do go up 5, 10, 15%. I mean, Joe Biden was pushed out of office because of inflation. And this is a very inflationary move that I just think is just so dicey economically and even politically speaking. I just don't see necessarily upside of it.
Let me just say this on what Nicloee has said, because I agree with her to some degree. And I don't know if you're aware, I used to do international business for the state of Maryland for 17 years. And we discovered in the biotech, University of Maryland, et cetera, that Bayer aspirin was invented in Baltimore. But we did not create the infrastructure to manufacture it here. So I agree with that part, but that's going to take not 6 months or a year, that's going to take years. And so what government should be creating right now is the infrastructure so that we can down the road manufacture, create more manufacturing. That's the problem. That hasn't happened over several decades. So instead of putting these tariffs, start creating the infrastructure so that we can do more manufacturing of pharmaceutical and other things. We don't have the base. Many things are discovered here, but we don't have the infrastructure. So don't do the tariffs and then be destructive to the country or in the other countries. Let's create the infrastructure. Let government provide the infrastructure, financial, et cetera, so that down the road we can do more manufacturing and do the training that's going to be needed and do the education that's going to be needed for our young people when they come out of school to be prepared for that.
All right.
So the problem is all of that is kicking the can down the road, right? There is no more time to let China have double the size of their Navy versus the US. There is no time. Furthermore, I don't want government involved in building the infrastructure. I want the private sector to come in and naturally build that infrastructure. What will prevent that is states like Maryland that are going bankrupt because of poor fiscal management. But the rest of America is ripe for investment and innovation. And we simply can't just keep saying, at some point this will happen. We are in dire straits. And, I think we all did fine when China was already tariffed for the past, 6 years. I think we all made it just fine. And it had this beautiful effect that all of these countries instead it wasn't just us that realized, for in the case of China, that they were a bad actor.
All right,
Right? The rest of the globe did, and so many of these manufacturing facilities have been coming to America. So fortunately, there was a head start on this. It's already been semiconductor plants have been made here. Auto plants have been made here. People know it's possible. So now they just have to keep going.
The president, during the week and the weeks prior to that, have made several references. He's made several references about the fact that he is not in any way joking about running for a third term, although the U.S. Constitution forbids it. What do you think about that? Mark, let's start with you.
There's a gap. He can run. The problem is what that represents, not the fact that he even thinks he wants to do it. It represents one of the most dangerous political issues we confront in America. Trump is in his own head. First of all, he's out of his mind. B, he's a dictator. That's what he thinks. He's and I'm going to say this, I'm sure people will disagree, which is fine. I think he is a demagogue and a racist and a fool. And we are facing a really frightening future with him at the helm. And I think that let me just say this. I blame the Democrats as much as the Republicans in many ways, because they haven't done anything. What are they doing? They're sitting with their thumbs up their butt. I mean, Democrats at this moment should be running a massive media campaign. They should be training organizers across the country to fight against this. They're not doing anything. They need to go back to their civil rights labor union roots, take it into the 21st century, and do something to stop it. And they're doing nothing.
Bryan, what do you think can be done? What can any of you suggest can be done about the world and the country right now?
I'm sorry, but I think Trump is trolling the media. I think he's living rent-free in the left's head. And I don't think he has any intention to run again. There's a 22nd Amendment. He knows that. He has great lawyers. Some of them are my friends. I don't think anyone but the left is concerned because they are so obsessed. And while he's trolling people, he's off doing things to bring trillions of dollars in manufacturing and high-paying jobs to America.
That's ridiculous.
But I think people are afraid, and they feel that the fact that he's ignoring judges, he's ignoring these lawsuits, he's like ignoring everybody, saying, I'm going to do what I want to do and how I want to do. So there's like, I'm not even going to have a constitution. The Congress, the Senate, I mean, no one's speaking up. Nothing is going through them. So it's like, he is a dictator. And Mark, I kind of agree with you, your description of him, trying to eliminate DEI and all of these other things and thinking that, the country's going to go back to just white people controlling everything. Give me a freaking break. There are talented people of all races. And this country is like that. That's why people come here.
There hasn't been a Republican that has done better with minorities than Donald Trump. I mean, that's the irony of all this.
But he hasn't done that well. He might have done better, but he hasn't done that well.
He's done better.
I think he's going to even do worse.
Nah, well, that's the thing is, he can't run again. He's not going to run again. And by the way, think about this. When that story came out was a couple of days before the tariffs kicked in. One of the things that he has to do is he has to have the threat for all these other countries to think, wow, he could be around for a while, right? He just throws that out there because he knows that people can wait him out. So they has to have a little bit of a threat, a little bit of a mystery. It's what he does. He trolls and he gets people all crazy about it. And it's really a non-story because it's pretty clear in the Constitution that he can't run.
I don't think Trump is not the issue there, because I think that I never thought, even before he ran for president, that he was all that bright and that deep. I mean, he's a buffoon. But J.D. Vance, from my political perspective, is brilliant. He knows how to organize. He knows how to get things done. And he's way far to the right. He scares me more than Trump does.
All right.
So you should want Trump to run again.
Pardon?
You should want Trump to run again.
That's right. By the way,
he's got one term and that's it. And that's this term. J.D. Vance.
The poll suggests that Elon Musk is not really popular in this country. And the president told his cabinet the other day that hatchet man Elon Musk will soon be leaving the White House, go back to some of his other toys.
Maybe we'll go back to
think about that. Then we'll break.
Hey, the stocks have gone down with Tesla. I think Trump is realizing that, hey, I think this guy is getting too much out of control, too much power, and let him go back so that he could deal with his stockholders with Tesla and whatever else he's doing as it relates to his spaceships and stuff. I mean, he's already wreaked havoc by firing people that need to be working. So I think he realized that, it's time. He did his piece. Let's let him go.
And the election in Wisconsin was pretty significant for the Democrats and for the Republicans. All right. Here's the voice of Square Off, ladies and gentlemen. Howard Mallison is going to be speaking to you. Please listen to him and support our sponsors on Square Off. Howard, take it away.
Thank you, Richard. You know, the law firm of Barry Glazer specializes in personal injury, medical malpractice, and nursing home neglect. His creative TV commercials have made him very recognizable because Barry tells it like it is. Barry and his team have an in-house doctor and nurse on staff. In fact, you should call Barry before you call the insurance company. Barry gets you top dollar from the insurance company. He's that good. So give the law firm of Barry Glazer a call at 410-547-8568 and let them know you heard about him on Square Off. You know, with so many cars on the road and distracted drivers everywhere, auto accidents will happen. And if you've experienced an accident, the insurance companies cannot tell you where to take your car. That's why more and more drivers are trusting their auto repairs and maintenance to leading edge auto body and mechanical repair. They work on all makes and models and offer free pickup and delivery anywhere in the Baltimore area. So give them a call at 410-443-6433 or visit them at 5807 Falls Road in Mount Washington. They make your car look and run like new again. Back to you, Rich.
Okay. Thank you, Howard. Let me get back to this one more time. The world's richest man, Elon Musk, spent $25 million to buy an election in Wisconsin. But there is now in the win column a W for Susan Crawford, the liberal candidate in the state Supreme Court race, who was, according to one report, driven in large part by voter revulsion. This is a quote at Musk's premise that democracy is for sale. Total spent on the most expensive court race in U.S. history, more than $100 million, including two $1 million checks from Elon Musk, a possible warning sign to Republicans of what lies ahead in 2026. I want a comment from Nicloee before we move on.
So this was a liberal justice who replaced another liberal justice. The last Wisconsin Supreme Court race did not go the Republicans' way either before all of this that you're referring to. But what I'm not hearing anyone talk about is the two congressional victories in Florida. And arguably one of those candidates was very weak and yet still won by leaps and bounds. So it kind of turned out how I expected it to. Republicans would win the two congressional seats in Florida and that we would lose that Supreme Court race in Wisconsin.
Brian, did you want to add one thing? I saw you nodding.
Well, no, Nicloee's absolutely correct. I mean, the one in Wisconsin is also abortion is on the ballot there, basically what it was. So Republicans haven't done very well when abortion is really on the ballot. And the other thing is this misnomer that money wins elections. Money hasn't won elections in this country recently at all. And you can ask a guy who ran in the state of Maryland who spent what, $60 million of his own dollars? I can't even remember what the number was.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. And David Trone, who lost by 10 points in a primary. So, money's not everything in politics. It's the matchup and what's the circumstances of it. And they were always behind it in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I think the real test is going to be in 2026. And I also think and agree with Mark when he talked about the Dems need to get off of their butts and they need to create a real agenda with real issues that are impacting people. And I think that's going to be the test. I think a lot of Republicans are not speaking up now because I think Elon has already promised them he'll fund their campaigns. But I think 2026 is really going to be the test.
And David Trump was actually a terrible candidate. I mean, nobody liked him. I mean, he threw all this money out, but he couldn't get any traction whatsoever. I think, and I'm saying that to say that money does play a role in politics, a huge role. It always has. You can't run a campaign without money. You can't run a campaign
Oh yeah, no.
millions of dollars for media. You can't run a campaign without a campaign staff. That costs money. So
But
money's
can you
But
run,
money can hurt as well.
yes, it can go both ways.
Even though I had nothing to do with that PAC that was created, it did impact me.
Nicloee, let me ask you this. How is it possible that President Trump is running this country entirely on executive orders? That none of this is going through Congress, the Republicans aren't talking, the Democrats aren't. What is it that's allowing this to go on?
Well, first of all, I think the masters of trying to run this country by executive orders are the Democrats. It is Democrat presidents who created endless executive orders and created czars to run different things that were not, established by law in any way, shape, or form. But specifically, let me give you an example of one of my favorite executive orders on election integrity that just came out. Basically, it asks America to follow our current election law, which the 14 states with no voter ID that have had a lot of corruption processes, problems with their election processes, basically challenges them to follow federal law, which they have not been doing. So I'm looking forward to, if all of these Democrat attorney general wants to bring lawsuits on failing to follow election law in this country to get the desired outcome they would like, great, bring on the court cases. The other thing I think we also have to look at and expect here is the Supreme Court of the United States of America is the only court that has federal jurisdiction, right? So I'm looking forward to some of these cases that just are enshrined by our Constitution, by law, being sadly, it's really sad we have to take courses to the U.S. Supreme Court to say, by the way, this is federal law. But I think we're going to see a lot of cases making their way up to the highest federal court to decide these things.
Bryan, you went C4 and had a ball talking about the governor and the taxes and the budget cuts during this week. Very, very good stuff on your show. Maryland Governor Wes Moore has been spending many of his working hours dealing with the $3.2 billion budget deficit, telling CNN's Dana Bash that the state of Maryland is giving middle-class families a tax cut, something state Republicans dispute. And Bryan, you had a lot of fireworks on your program.
Oh, well, they dispute it because it's a lie. It's not true. That's what it is. I mean, it is a minuscule cut that works out to about $2 a paycheck for most Marylanders. And his own comptroller even said that 500,000 Marylanders who make under $250,000 a year would see a tax increase because deductions have been taken away. It's an awful budget. It is not pro-growth. It is not pro-business, but he goes on every single interview session and says it's pro-growth and pro-business. It's a $1.6 billion tax increase, the biggest, largest tax increase the state's ever seen, and he acts like it's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
That's true. This past Tuesday, the state Senate passed a spending plan that includes the $1.6 billion in new taxes and fees, $2 billion in tax cuts. There are tax increases for the wealthy, a 3% tax on IT services, taxes on vending machine sales, increases on cannabis sales, and sports betting discussion. Marc, Sheila.
Tires, mattresses. This, I went through a recession where we had to not only cut and freeze jobs, but we had to become extremely talented in making sure we still did quality services, but with less. And I think that our state legislators just don't get it. And they aren't listening to the average citizen, and the impact that this is going to have on us. And as I talk to different legislators, it's like, who are they listening to? I'm just very frustrating, but we're going to be hit because not only with all of these increases in taxes, and then also your own personal taxes, BG&E. And what's this rebate that we're going to get? Be real. My
$80.
BG&E bill went up $300 more than what it is. You know, sure, I can afford to do that. I mean, right now. But not only that, I mean, I'm just very frustrated. And I've sent messages to my district legislators that I have a real concern and they better give me some real answers, or I cannot support anybody that passes all these taxes. It's frustrating.
By
And
the
I
way,
think it has,
as an aside, Governor Moore has been on national TV shows on 3 consecutive weekends now. And each time he would not say yes or no to his own presidential run in 2028. Calvert County Republican State Delegate Mark Fisher says Governor Moore, who's been on national TV shows, as I mentioned, 3 times in a row, is campaigning for president, not running Maryland. Mark, what do you think about that comment?
I think it's stupid, but I think that I mean, yeah, he's running for president. Of course, he's running for president. I think that so I don't condemn him or any other politician for going on national shows when that's what's in their head. They want to run for president. That's what they do. That's what politicians do. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is that I think, going back to your previous question, how it fits into all that, is that I can't quite figure out how someone who is so bright, so politically astute, can make the mistakes they're making now. That's what Sheila and others were saying about taxes in Maryland. It made no sense to me. It's absurd. So if you want to run for president, this is not the way to do it. That's what I would say.
Right.
I think that, I mean, that therein lies the problem. I have no.
Well, you saw what O'Malley did the same thing, and O'Malley got what, 1% of the vote when he ran for president.
Right.
You know, you have to make hard decisions, but you also have to have people who work for you who understand system, and that's part of the challenge. You got to have folks understand system, and sometimes you just got to take the bite and take the hit, and do more with less, so that you can move on. Because people are moving to Florida. People in Montgomery County can move to Virginia. I mean, why are other states doing well and we're not? I just get frustrated. And when I listen to it, I turn it off. I'm like, you know what? Let me just work out a little harder in the gym.
Let's stop for just a second. Bring Howard back for a few more. Then we'll go to Nicloee. I see you're giving the gesture that Ambrose wants to speak. Go ahead, Howard.
Thank you, Richard. Dr. Kelly Gagan is a well-respected board-certified podiatrist and heel specialist, and foot problems can happen at any age. Dr. Gagan knows that the appearance of your feet matter just as much as correcting any problems you may be experiencing. And if unsightly toenails embarrass you to wear sandals or open-toed shoes, you may be a candidate for laser treatments that can solve this issue. They're safe, painless, and they go right to the cause. And believe me, over-the-counter treatments don't work. So give Dr. Gagan a call at 410-753-4422 to set up an appointment. And Baltimore is a great diner town, and the Double T diners are always voted #1 in reader polls. TT stands for totally terrific. For breakfast, lunch, or dinner, you can't beat the enormous menu selections that will bring you back again and again. There's Double T locations on Route 40 West, Perry Hall, White Marsh, Bel Air, Laurel, Annapolis, Pasadena, and the EC Diner in Ellicott City. Plus, try By the Docks in Middle River for their Monday night lobster special, all part of the Double T family. Tell them you heard about them on Square Off. Back to you, Richard.
Speaking of Dr. Kelly Gagan and our feet, I must say, she is feetastic.
Oh.
Say that.
Nicloee, what did you want to say before? I'm sorry.
So I don't think I've ever agreed both with Marc and Sheila all in the same breath. This is amazing. We're coming together.
Wow.
So we're looking at this situation where Governor Moore inherited a $5 billion surplus just 2 years ago from Republican Governor Larry Hogan. And now he's produced a $3 billion deficit. And not only is this a fiscal disaster, but he seems to not have any comprehension of how hard this is making life for everyday Marylanders. We are back to where we were when a Republican governor got elected in 2014, where over half of the state's population is looking at moving out of the state. Okay. So, no, do I want to leave the state? But do I understand why people are considering it? Yes, because life is just unaffordable. And then you add in kind of all the other crazy policies that Governor Moore is looking at. I mean, his health department was recommending a bill to have condoms in preschool and kindergarten facilities. These power bills are insane. And by the way, there's no relief. We are looking at rolling blackouts. 7 power plants have been shut down at the state, and they're looking at taking down another one. And now we are going to be getting our power from out of state. So guess who gets the short end of the stick when we don't make our own power in this state? And then essentially, aside from the fact that just my monthly expenses in the past few years have increased thousands upon thousands of dollars a month. The quality of my services have gone drastically down. And since COVID, everyone realizes they can just move and not be treated like this in other states. So it's time. I mean, I think our General Assembly is out of control. I think Governor Moore doesn't know how to govern. But the consolation for the Democrats for 2028 is that his big competition just burnt down his state. So, great choice for the Democrats here.
What did you say? Burnt what?
His competition, Gavin Newsom, burnt down his state. So, I mean, we're looking at a guy who's bankrupted his state here in Maryland versus a guy who's burnt down his state in California. Not the best situation.
All right, Bryan.
I'm not sure all the power plants, though, relate to Governor Moore. I mean, those things started closing way before he became governor. But I do know we need to look at... Yeah, no, I agree. We do need to look at having more energy produced here in the state of Maryland.
Go, Bryan.
They do relate to Democratic policies. They relate to green energy policies that have pushed production out of this state, and we are now importing 40% of our energy, and that number is going to go up even more in the name of green. And in the meantime, we're taking it from Pennsylvania that uses fossil fuels. It makes absolutely no sense. And we're in this boat because of Democrats and Democratic policies. And the other thing that's just fascinating to me is that Governor Moore, who is this, lab-made politician, I mean, good looking, is optimistic, smiling, just, Rhodes Scholar, Hopkins, all this stuff. And yet he can't get his own caucus to go along with him. This is the fascinating part about the session for me, outside of the massive tax hike, is that he wanted to slow down the blueprint. He couldn't get the House Democrats to do it. He wanted to put a corporate tax cut in. He couldn't get House Democrats to do it. They're not listening to him. And that is a pretty big story.
No, I agree. I'm going to give him a call and say, look, do you need me to come in there to show you how to deal with them? I can help you. Because you're right. No, you're right. They should be like flipping over saying, okay, Governor, let's work this out.
It does strike me as a complete outsider, obviously, other side of the aisle, but it strikes me that the Moore administration just has no idea how to govern.
All right.
One small thing that Bryan
Make it small, Mark.
I'm trying to make it small.
Please.
To blame green energy policy is absurd. I think that the problem with green energy policy, it was never really implemented the way it was supposed to be implemented. You have to have a balance between fossil fuels and green, and building green to make it safer for all of us in the future and our kids. But they didn't do that. They didn't invest in it. They didn't make it work. And so it was a disaster all the way around. I think that's the bottom line of that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's, like you said, it's a balance. But I also think we need to get out of the mindset of Democrat, Republican. Why are we there to serve? And who are we serving? It's not Democrat, Republican. I'm a Democrat, but I don't necessarily think like all the Democrats that Republicans tend to like to group people in. When Bryan in the morning says, well, the Democrats, and I want to like go through the phone and say, well, Bryan, I kind of agree with what you're saying.
But I think you're talking about the groupthink problem you're seeing, right? And that's just been a huge societal problem, and it's sad because it's intellectually feeble for the people who go along with it. And Sheila, that's why it's so awesome you're not like that.
All right, I'll drink more of that.
You too, Mark. You're one of a kind too.
Yep, it's a great panel. Sheila, thank you. Mark, thank you. Mark's dog, excellent performance. Of course, Nicloee, you're always the best defending your people and our Republicans. And Bryan, you get the award for smiling. It's great. Your show's terrific on WBAL.
Let's all go to the Golden Corral now.
All right, let's go.
Right. Sheila,
No way.
let's take a collection and take Sheila to a buffet.
That's okay.
And thank
No,
you
thank
for
you.
joining us at SquareOff.net. We'll see you again next weekend, and once again, we square off. Bye-bye.